Last week on the show, we explored how differences in parenting tears marriages apart and can cause stress and anxiety for kids.
That was the part that was the most surprising.
It was interesting, wasn't it? But we also shared some good news. We shared very research-based evidence that when parents can get on the same page and parent their children with intention and from a place of shared values, they can raise emotionally strong, intelligent, and socially competent children. So if you missed last week's episode, it was a really good one and super important as a foundation for today's episode. So please go back and listen to it if you missed it. Today, we're going to be sharing not one, but actually two conflict blueprints that we use all the time, both in our own relationship and also with coaching our clients. The first one is a blueprint for how we can bring up concerns or issues with each other in a gentle way. And the second blueprint shows you what to do when you are stuck. We call it gridlocked. When you're stuck on an issue and you can't seem to find a way forward or a solution to a particular parenting problem, what can you do? So we're going to share that blueprint as well. This is going to be a value-packed episode that you will probably want to listen to and re-listen to again and again. It's probably going to be one that we give as homework to all of our coaching clients as well.
Yeah, I'd say bookmark this one.
Bookmark it.
Yep.
Good idea. That's what's up next here on Master Your Marriage.
Okay, today we have a lot on the agenda, so we're going to jump right in. Last week we did a poll on social media and we asked parents, here's the question. When it comes to parenting together, what is the most common disagreement that you encounter? A few of the responses were, you're not tough enough. We have discipline issues or a mismatch in discipline.
Yes.
One I thought was interesting is how much help to give your grown adult children.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
We see that as well. And also some disagreement on activities like sleepovers or how many extracurricular activities, like, are we going to put them in ballet and basketball? And I'd say the most common response that we got from parents was that they disagree over how to discipline or how to discipline while parenting.
Exactly. So now before we give you those blueprints that I mentioned, there's a few difficult pills that we're going to ask you to swallow today.
Ooh.
These are not easy ones, but they are critical that we talk about them. So you ready to do that?
Yep. I'm ready for some difficulty.
Okay.
But hey, let's grow.
Let's grow.
Okay.
All right. So first is whatever position you take on an issue, there is absolutely no point in staking your ground. One of the most dangerous losing strategies in relationships is this need to be right. We've done a whole episode, you can go back and listen to it, on the problem with needing to be right and how it destroys ultimately our larger goal, which is connection. And in fact, the whole debate over who is right and who is wrong is so destructive. It's destructive to each of you individually, to the kids, to the entire family system. So we want to reframe this whole who's right, who's wrong thing. And we want the reframe to be who cares? Because the only thing that matters is whether we can treat each other with respect and find some sort of a win-win solution that is going to be a mixture. Remember, compromises mean that neither side is going to prevail 100%. There's going to be some give and take, but that a solution can be created where both of your values are represented. Otherwise, if we can't do that, we're just demanding that our position prevails. Our partner should accept it and yield to us. And that is not relational. That is manipulative.
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts just as you were, talking about that portion. In any relationship, in work relationships, in friendships, and in partnerships, the need to be right is, I don't even need to say what it is, because just by saying the need to be right, we all know that creates a bit of a problem.
Do you even want to be friends with somebody who is constantly needing to be right?
Yeah.
I don't want to hang out with that person.
Yeah. So the need to be right, I think we should always we just need to get rid of that if that's one of your habits. And then I want to bring in a quote that a very wise person told me one time, and it said, compromise is the oil that lubricates this engine called marriage.
Right.
I love that. I love that quote.
And I think as we'll go through these blueprints today, I think you'll see this even more. I also would add to that quote that a compromise, it's also a way that we can actually come up with more creative and better solutions to our problems, because we're actually increasing the intelligence brought to the table. If we can bring in two people's minds, two people's ideas and perspectives, we actually can increase the IQ of the system, of the whole.
Oh, I like that. As you were talking, I was thinking another quote, which is sort of like my favorite thing to do. Maybe it is compromise equals creativity.
Yeah. And more solutions, not less, if we do it right.
Yeah. If we compromise, then we can get creative. All right. Well, so that was the first one.
That was the first pill.
Right? And the next pill is that you cannot be influential in your relationship unless you're willing to be influenced. When we attempt to force our ideas, the result is we are less heard, less respected, and less likely to have our ideas actually thought about or even considered. I think of it like those Chinese finger traps. Remember those as a kid?
Yeah.
I don't remember where we got them, but you stick your fingers in
parties. We always got it at parties.
Yeah, it was party favors. Yeah. You'd stick both fingers in, usually your 2 pointer fingers in. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see me doing it. And you were trapped, especially if you tried to pull out.
Yes.
It got tighter. And so when you pulled your fingers in opposition, it just wouldn't work. You'd increase the tension. Unless you brought your fingers close together and then slowly worked on just kind of moving one side out, you were trapped. So analogous to this, staying entrenched in your position and being unwilling to accept influence or new ideas or any information from your partner is sort of like pulling on the finger trap on both sides. You're just making it tighter. So the more you resist new ideas, the more you resist your partner's ideas, the more you struggle and fight, the more resistance you will feel in that relationship, and likely more resistance from your partner, because if you're stuck on one idea, the next time maybe you have an idea where they have an idea that's not going to be heard.
Exactly. I love that analogy of the finger trap. What feels like, oh my gosh, we have just such different ideas about how to handle this situation, and we're pulling and pulling, but we're just trapping ourselves in more misery too.
There was another quote. It must be recording in the morning, so maybe I'm fresh. That which you resist will persist.
Right. So true.
It's probably Ted Lasso.
You're on fire today. I don't even know. You are Ted Lasso today.
Maybe it's Ted Lasso. Okay.
All right. So what Robert just said, I'll just summarize, is that the more influence you accept, the more influential you will actually become in your relationship. If you want to be more powerful in your relationship, remember this: you cannot be powerful in a relationship unless you can be influenced. So as we move through these two blueprints now, I just want you to kind of keep these two principles in mind that we just talked about. Needing to be right is destructive to the ultimate goal. And number two, be ready to accept influence in your relationship. Okay. So blueprint number one is a gentle start.
Ooh. Yeah.
Okay. Really important. So this is talking about when you're bringing up an issue. Let's say I notice Robert does a correction to our son, and I don't like the way that he does a correction. I think it's too harsh, and I want to give him feedback on his harshness. Well, I need to bring that up. So I need to bring up an issue. So this first point is I need to do that gently. So when you're bringing up an issue, giving your partner feedback, what rules do we want to kind of follow, Robert?
Well, so first thing is that you need to just make sure that there's no character attacks, no criticisms or hostility. And if you remember to avoid all of the you statements, like this is your fault, you were this, you were that, it'll actually be better. Focus on you.
Yes.
Focus on how you feel. Focus on what you want, not what your partner did, or spending time pointing out the myriad of ways where they were incorrect.
I always remind myself, describe me, Charlotte, describe me. Don't describe Robert, because it's so tempting to go, you were so harsh. You were just such a jerk, instead of I perceived this. I saw that. I felt this way. So describe yourself.
That boils back down to, that comes back to influence.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell me, if you start with a, you were, my guard's up, I'm not willing to accept influence.
Yes, exactly.
If you say, I felt this way, I'm like, oh man, I made you feel that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm starting to take influence in that way.
So what are some other rules for bringing up something gently?
Right? No blaming statements, none of those types of things. So we're going to go no blaming. And then we're also going to go with no demands. Mm. So you were terrible. You need to stop.
Yeah.
Right. That's a you statement
followed by a
coupled
demand.
With a demand and then some blaming.
And again, you're not going to be heard. You're not going to have influence. You're not going to be able to have your perspective even considered. You're not going to be able to sit down at the table and actually have a fair negotiation with anyone if you start out with any of these things.
Well, that's not even a compromising conversation.
No.
That becomes one-sided. I'm 100% right. You're 100% wrong. Even if in this situation I was 100% wrong, you're pointing it out, saying that you're all right, I'm all wrong, and then there's no middle ground. There's nowhere to go from there.
Exactly.
The only thing I can do is stake my territory and try and protect.
And this isn't just like our thoughts on the matter. There's some research that totally backs this up, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. The research indicates how you start the conversation indicates how well the conversation is going to go and how the conversation is going to end. 93% of the time, if you start harshly, that whole conversation is going to go poorly. And you know this. Coming in hot, it's going to stay hot.
Exactly.
If you come in hot, that conversation is never going to go anywhere. So maybe take a deep breath before you do that. The other side of this is not only does it predict how well the conversation goes, but it predicts the happiness and longevity of your relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about that. If you think about it, okay, the first thing I say right now in the first minute or two is not only going to predict the success of this conversation, it is going to predict the success and longevity of our entire relationship.
Yeah.
Pretty important. I'm going to add one thing that I just remembered is that there is a little bit of a gender gap here in that generally speaking, about 80% of the time, it is the woman who is bringing up the concerns. You know, it's important for both men and women to know this rule of always have a gentle start, but it is something we have to be aware of and careful with. As a woman, I know that I bring up things more to Robert than Robert brings up to me. And it's important. It's imperative that I do that in a gentle way for the health of our relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So let's talk about how specifically Robert gave us rules of what to avoid, but how do we actually start gently? And there's a lot of different ways, really. There's not a right way, wrong way. I think the real key is as long as you're avoiding criticism, blame, demands, you're going to do really well. So I don't want you to get hung up on a formula per se.
There's not a script.
Yeah, it's more about just remembering to use nonviolent communication, which are those things Robert just described. However, we do have a favorite blueprint, and I know people love to have a blueprint. It gives them a great place to start, and
it's good to practice that way,
and a great way to practice. So there's it's called a feedback wheel,
right? So and we'll link that in the show notes.
Yes,
yep.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So there are 4 steps to the feedback wheel. First, state what you observed as objectively as possible. So I saw this.
I observed that.
Yep.
I heard you say this.
Second, describe yourself. What is the story that you've created about your observation or what you heard?
So the story in my
head is
blank.
X.
So I have these observations, but the story I created about that or what's going on inside of me is this.
And that's a very disarming little piece
right
there to say, like, the story in my head is that because you drove away, that you were trying to abandon me.
Right.
Instead, you're like, no, actually, I just got a call. There's an emergency down the street. And I didn't look at that.
I love that you said the word disarming because that's so true because you're admitting right off the bat that
there could
my
be an alternative.
Perception could be wrong and my story could be wrong and there might be an alternative here.
And you're giving grace, you're giving the opportunity to correct that if that's the case.
Exactly.
All right. So number 2 was the story in my head. Number 3 is describe yourself further. How did it make me feel? And I think I kind of covered that. Like I felt abandoned or whatever it was. And then the fourth part of this feedback wheel is make a request.
Okay. Let's do a quick demonstration as it relates to the kids.
Let's talk about the laundry room because you did the feedback wheel really perfect.
Oh, with just how we did it with Dallin the other day?
So Dallin, our youngest, he's 16 and he's in charge of his own laundry.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed that his laundry pile was getting a little bit big. And so I mentioned it to him. I'm like, man, you could probably get lost in there. And
can't see your floor anymore.
Can't see your floor. And he said, well, those are all clean. I just need to put them away. And which I thought was an interesting way of storing your clothes. But again, 16 and he's a boy. Yeah. So we'd talked to him about it, I think, one day and then 2 days. And the weekend was this was over the 4th of July. So I think
it wasn't getting done for 2 days.
Yeah, it wasn't getting done for 2 days. And he's such a good kid. I'll tell you what he said about it. But Charlotte finally decided to tackle it again with him. So I'll let you pick up from there. So I did the
feedback wheel. So the first thing was, what's my observation? I said, hey, buddy,
I noticed Mount Laundry is still there.
I noticed as I was walking by your bathroom that the laundry pile is still there. And then the second piece was, story in my head. And the story I said was, and the story I'm kind of making up about this is that if I don't get really mean about this, that it's just going to stay there for another month. And I'm feeling really frustrated. I'm feeling really sad about it. And what I would really appreciate is if you could get that done by the end of the day for sure.
So she did the 4 steps. Like I noticed, story in my head.
Yep.
This is how it makes me feel. And then here's my request. And I will tell you, because and everybody loves to brag about their kids, but Dallin is the best. And what he said was, he said, yeah, I'm just being lazy.
Which was was really cool, because
he just
I think when
openly admitted that he was being lazy, which anybody who has kids and teenagers knows that's exactly what was happening. But he owned that, which I thought was just brilliant.
But did you disarming. Also, it was disarming. And did you notice also that when we had when we didn't do the feedback wheel with him the day before and nothing happened, that we were making comments more like, dude, what the crap is going on in your bathroom? We were kind of joking, but it was also not the feedback wheel, and it netted us 0 results.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And then the next day we did the feedback wheel and he had it done in a couple hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't immediate, but he did get it done that day.
At least it got done.
Yeah. So let's say you're doing this with your partner, though. Let's say on the example I shared earlier, I felt like you were harsh in the way that you commented to Dallin about, we'll say, the laundry.
Right.
Maybe I thought you were harsh the first time, and I was coming to you with the feedback wheel and I was saying, I observed this. The story in my head is that I feel this way about it. I would appreciate it if you would do this X thing differently. What would your job be as the listener of someone listening to the feedback wheel?
Well, my listener's job is to listen for what's true.
Yes.
Right. But, and that's helpful, especially if you're not coming in hot.
Yes.
If you come in hot, guard goes up, then I'm not listening to anything. So you did a soft start, you came in, I'm going to listen for what part is mine, what part is true. And it's perfect. If we go back to Dallin, he listened for what part was his, and he was like, that part's mine. I was being lazy. So you listen for what's true. You're not trying to decide that you need to agree or disagree. You're just remaining curious. And then just acknowledge what you said, what was presented to you, and what you heard that was true, even if only 10% of it belongs to you. You'll get your chance to talk.
Yeah, you'll get your chance to continue the wheel. I think this is another thing that I have to work with couples a lot on is, okay, you just got feedback. Your first thing shouldn't be like, now I've got to become a defense attorney and I have to go through your points one by one and defend each one of them.
Right.
I love the quote, defense is the first act of war. So remember to always listen first for what is true. You'll get a chance to correct, but always connect before you correct. And you do that by acknowledging the parts of what your partner said that are true, even if it's 1% or 10% or 20%. I think in many cases, you will have also a position on some of the things that I said that are different from mine, and you'll want to share those as well.
Yes.
As long as you have first acknowledged that I have made some fair points and that you hadn't thought about it that way. And can I also have you shared everything with me that you want to share? I have some thoughts on this as well that I'd like to share my position on this. And then you would also then do it in the same way with the feedback wheel.
The feedback wheel reverses the roles, reverse listener, speaker.
Mm-hmm. And then after you do that, a few things that I love that are also on John Gottman's repair checklist, that you can, after you've gone through the feedback wheel a few times, you can say things like, let's work on finding some common ground here. That's also, again, disarming.
Yes.
Or let's agree to include both of our views or both of our values that we've talked about here. Let's figure out a solution that's going to include both of our values. Yeah. And generally, I think with the majority of the conflicts that we have, that's it. We're done. At that point, we're pretty much done.
Should be.
It's a 15-minute conversation.
Unless
it becomes a problem that is really, truly gridlocked.
Yeah.
And the problem with gridlocked is that's when we've become so entrenched in our ideas that even going through the feedback wheel several times, we're not getting anywhere and we're becoming more and more disengaged with each other.
And the gridlock problems really are, I think, as you're listening to this episode and as you're trying to employ the feedback wheel, especially when it comes to new disagreements, new episodes of feedback, I think that's going to be super effective.
Yes.
Gridlock problem is something that's been years.
More than likely.
Right? This is something you've not been able to agree on, and you've sort of been tiptoeing around it.
You've not been managing it.
Yeah. You've not managed this. You've not managed it. It falls into the 69% of perpetual problems.
But you've probably stopped talking about it, and you're just mad at each other, and you just don't even want to talk about it
and
anymore.
Then you get triggered every time it comes up, and then you walk off. And so this is a problem that needs to be managed, but we need to be able to dig into this. I like to say that all disagreements stem from a mismatch in core values.
Absolutely. Within every disagreement, there's a dream or a core value. And when you understand what that core value is, then you can find the compromise. But if you haven't taken the time to first understand, then you're not even ready in a position to even find a compromise. If I don't understand what is his value and his dream, then I have no business trying to come up with a solution.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And you're going to find eventually a solution that is a mixture of both. And so when a couple...
And also a way to meet both goals and dreams.
Absolutely. And I think there's always a way.
Yeah.
If you're willing to accept influence and have some flexibility, there's always a way to include your values and my values in that solution. I think it's crucial to realize that these values have deep personal meaning for each person.
Yeah, you can't dismiss them.
And you shouldn't dismiss them. Yeah. They're important. And the relationship needs to be a safe haven where both people have their values respected. We don't want to have the kind of relationship where one person is always winning at the cost of the other person's values and dreams.
That's just, I need to be right all the time.
Exactly. So that brings us to the second blueprint.
Yep, which is the dreams within conflict.
Yeah. Okay, so the speaker's job is, when you are the speaker, your job, your role is to share your dreams, your values that are related to this particular issue. Your job as the speaker is not to try to persuade your partner. It's simply to be able to share what is that dream, what is that belief, what are those values in an honest way that you are holding within your fist. And then the listener's job is always hardest. I think the listener's job is always much harder.
Remain curious.
Because it's so easy to get defensive. It's so easy to be thinking about your responses to what they're saying and ready to like volley them back and to defend them. But if you can remain, as you just said, curious, have an open mind, and to be always listening for ways to say yes. Like, okay, yeah, I don't care if he really does the laundry at, 2:00 as opposed to 4:00. Does that really matter as long as the laundry gets done? I have some flexibility in the who, the what, the when, the where, the why. So listen for the ways to say yes.
Absolutely.
And remember that the listener, you're going to change roles. So eventually the listener is also going to become the speaker, and they'll have a chance to also share their dreams. And as the listener, you're not only listening with curiosity, but you do get to ask questions, clarifying questions to help you to understand so that you can move forward towards compromise.
Yeah. This is a different type of a situation than the feedback wheel. The dreams within conflict, what we're really trying to do is access both people's core values.
Yes.
And it's super important that both of those roles, speaker, listener, be reversed and respected on both sides. 100%. It's not the same as the feedback wheel where there's one person who's presenting a problem. You're looking for the truths and then having to accept that within your world. This is super important because we're talking about deeply held values, and each of those needs to be aired out. Each of them needs to be explained. Each of them needs to be respected for them. And then that is where the super important part of compromise needs to happen.
I love the saying, understanding must precede any solution seeking. So this is your opportunity for that understanding. This is for gridlock problems to flush out, create understanding, and to understand what those values are. So we're going to demo? Let's demo it.
Okay.
Let's use an example from our past. We have shared this before. It's related to chores and parenting. And do you want to give the background?
So we can twist this because anybody who has kids understands chores and parenting. The original context was shoveling the walkway.
It's the snow.
Yeah. Shoveling. Yeah, that's good. Thank you for putting snow in.
What are we shoveling?
Yeah.
Dog poop?
Shoveling snow off of the walkway. I would get up because I had to be at the office at 8. So I would get up at 6:36 and I would plow the driveway and everything else. And I was a little bit after Charlotte and Dallin that he should shovel just the walkway, which is all of about 15 minutes to just clear the front walk. That would be his job with a shovel.
And we fought
to
about
do.
this.
Yeah. And we disagreed over this a lot.
Yep.
I thought it was an easy task. She had a different feeling.
So we'll just run this process, trust the process. We won't even give you any more background, and you'll pick up all the pieces. I want you to listen as we demo this, and we haven't even practiced this in forever. So this is going to be real and raw.
It's a rough cut. Here we go.
Yeah. But what I want you to listen for is, what are Robert's values? What do you think? Because if you really listen, people are always telling you their values. You just have to have an ear for it. So listen for what you think are Robert's values versus what do you think are Charla's values. And how might we come up with a solution? Maybe you can be even thinking at home, okay, what's a solution that these two could come up with where both of their values are represented?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. All right. So who wants to be speaker first? Me or you?
I'll do it. I'll be speaker.
You'll be speaker. Okay.
Well, because I was the one pressing the issue, so it would make sense that.
Okay. So Robert, if you're the speaker, I'm just going to go ahead and fire away some questions. So why don't you tell me, do you have any core beliefs or ethics or values that are part of your position? I understand you want to have Dallin, shovel the walkway. And what I've heard you, as we've talked about it, say is that you want this done early in the morning, at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and you want him to shovel the walkway. Tell me, do you have some beliefs or ethics or values that are part of your position on this?
So I'd love for him to understand the value of having responsibility and a job that, as part of the household, there's things that we have to do. Like if I don't plow the snow, it's not going to get plowed. And then we'll end up with problems and ice and all kinds of things. And I'd love for him to work with me and just share that experience. It would be kind of cool to just see us working together. That was a value for me. So I want him to have responsibility. I'd love him to work with me, sort of this shared working environment as a way to connect. We have those types of things. And then I want him just to understand that there's some responsibility, and I want him to do hard things. I said responsibility like 4 times today.
I think that might be a core value.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want him to be able to do hard work. He can do hard things. It's not that long. Sometimes we have to get up early. So I just think that's it.
Okay. So
I want to instill those values in him. And the only way to do that is he has to do it.
Yeah. So break from the conversation. I'll just, as a teaching moment, point out what were some of Robert's values that you guys heard. You heard responsibility several times. You heard hard work, being able to do hard things. You heard doing things together as a team. So teamwork, team player. I think that was also a value that Robert expressed there. Family, like doing things together as a family and connection.
Yeah.
So I think I heard at least 5 or 6 different core values that are really important to him. And of those 5 or 6, I would say responsibility was probably the highest priority one because it was mentioned so many times.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me,
but it also comes from, go ahead. I'm
going to ask you more questions.
I'm getting ahead. Yeah.
So I'm still digging into understanding.
I've already done this with you before. So
you can ask as many questions as you need to get to that point where I really feel like I understand his position. So he could share as much as he wants. And if he stops talking, then I can prompt him with more questions if I still feel like I need clarity. So let's say I ask you, hey, Robert, is there a story behind this for you? Is this something that relates maybe to your childhood or your background in some way?
Yeah, she gets me with that one. So I was raised in a single parent household. I was the only boy, and it was my job.
Yeah.
I did the whole driveway, the walkway and everything. And if it snowed, I had to get up early and do it. And it didn't kill me. It didn't hurt me. It made me stronger, and it made me not afraid to do hard things. It made me a better worker when I made it into the workforce. It made me a better person overall. I didn't like it. It wasn't fun. Probably the funnest time I had was when my sister would help me shovel. So maybe that was it. Maybe that's
the connection and the family piece and
the
teamwork piece.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to, again, break. I have to do a teaching moment again. I will tell you that when Robert and I did this process the first time, I don't know if you caught his voice change, if you're listening on audio or if you're watching on video, if you saw his his eyes like got moist. And even when I asked the question, he paused and took a little breath. And I could tell that he was emotionally touched even by the thought or the question or my interest in his story. And for me as the listener, if I was coming in hot, if I was still mad at him at this point, I wouldn't be anymore because his vulnerability completely just disarmed me. So right away, I'm there. I'm ready to come to a compromise with him just because he was vulnerable with me.
Yeah. I mean, you ask the question and you have to be honest about how you feel about the dream or the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I again, just point out vulnerability is intimacy. Vulnerability brings connection.
Without a doubt.
Vulnerability
Yeah.
brings connection, and it moves us away from hostility.
Yeah.
So that question was really helpful for me as a listener. A couple of other questions. I don't think Robert and I need to do them because I think we're probably close to being there. But a couple other questions you might ask when you're trying to understand is, tell me why this is important to you, or what feelings do you have about this, or what would be your ideal dream here, or is there a deeper purpose or goal in this for you? Those are also some really good questions. But those first two usually get us pretty close to.
And I might
ready.
have practiced it before, so I spit out all the goals and all that.
You want to reverse?
Yes.
So
should we reverse?
I'll be the speaker, you be the listener, and you ask me questions.
Right. So tell me about what's important to you, or do you have any deeply held values as it relates to Dallin shoveling the snow, not shoveling snow?
So
or my request.
I would say for me, the values that I hold really important are first kindness and compassion. That when we do things together, when we speak to each other, that we do it in a way that is nonviolent communication, that is a way where we are appreciative of one another, where we have general human kindness and respect for one another. So that is something that is definitely a core value on this particular issue, that when we work together as a family, which I love working together as a family, that we don't do it by making demands, but we do it by kindness. Basically just following the feedback wheel, really.
Right.
Just basic respect. So those are, those are my values around it.
Kindness, respect,
compassion.
Yeah. Are there any stories around this, maybe from your childhood that relates to how you feel about this?
I think there wasn't a lot of those things when we were growing up. And I think there was a lot of demands that were made, not a lot of understanding or explanations for why these demands. There was a lot of harshness. And so I just want to make sure that the environment that we create for our children is one where they don't feel the way that I felt, that they feel that we have a safe, loving environment for them. That doesn't mean that they don't have to work. It just means that I want to make sure that they feel like they're loved.
Okay. Anything else I'm missing?
No. Should we move on? Do you feel like you understand my position?
Yes. Do you feel like you understand mine?
I do. Do you think we can move forward into talking about compromise now?
Yes. I mean, I think it's the next step, right?
So the next step would be compromise. And to compromise, it's really about now with this understanding. I'm not ready to do any compromise unless I really understand. You still need to continue to ask questions if you don't fully understand. But then it's about looking at what are the areas of flexibility and non-flexibility. So Robert and I would each talk about, okay, where are the areas where I can be flexible? Where are the areas that I can't be flexible? So do you want to share maybe a couple of your areas of flexibility versus non-flexibility?
As it relates to this specific example?
Specific example.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when we did this exercise the first time, you said, well, 6:30 seems pretty early. Mm-hmm. And 6 is pretty early. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm already up. Mm-hmm. But I don't care when he does it. So the compromise is am I willing to compromise on what time it has to be done? Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's as much about what time it was. I think it was more about him being with me and working with me. Mm-hmm. So I'm having to compromise on him working with me.
That's true. That's a good point.
Right. So I compromise on that.
For the greater purpose of having him learn hard work and responsibility.
At the end of the day, what's more important? Can he do it? Can he learn something from it? Will he, work through it? And, in the background, there's a little lesson that I already know is happening that maybe you didn't know happening. Well, the minute the Amazon guy or somebody walks on it, it's going to create ice and it'll be twice as hard for him to shovel, but that's okay.
Because he'll learn.
Right. When you hit that ice with a shovel that's under the snow, like that clunk, that will teach you that maybe you want to get out there before people step on it.
So flexibility. So areas of flexibility were time and doing it with you.
Doing it with me. Yeah.
And the areas of not being flexible are?
I think you should still shovel the walk.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I'm flexible obviously that I'm with you. I want him to do this. I think my areas of inflexibility, we'll start with that one, are that I would just want to make sure that he feels appreciated, loved, and that we ask him to do things gently. And then when he's done with it, that we always thank him for doing it, because I just think that's basic human respect.
Right.
Thank you for your effort. And I like a lot of positive reinforcement.
Right.
Areas of flexibility for me, again, I don't care how often he has to do it. You can ask him as much as you want. We can set a daily timer for him. We can do, requirements. We can do chore charts. Like, I'm pretty much flexible on everything else. I just want to make sure that we are kind and we ask him and we appreciate him and we respect him. That's it.
No, I love that. Yeah. The only person who's not kind in this is Mother Nature.
I mean, that's true.
She'll dump snow on you whether you want it or not.
Okay. So then let's say you guys have worked through this process and now you're at this point where you are about to make compromise. We're going to end with a few questions that you can ask each other that will help you come to a compromise. So first of all, what feelings do we have in common? I would say for Robert and I, what do you think? What feelings we have in common?
I mean, you want kindness and respect.
You do too.
Yeah.
I think that we both want him to grow up and be a good human being, that we want him to be a responsible adult. I want him to take care of his family the way that you take care of our family. So I think that's things we definitely have in common. The next question would be, what core goals or dreams do we have in common? Again, same thing. We just talked about that. We want him to be a good human. Yeah.
Trying to build good humans. I think everybody is trying to build good humans.
So we're looking at our areas that we have in common first. How else? So how might these goals be accomplished? Well, this is where we would negotiate. Well, how about he does it when he wakes up?
Yeah.
What if he does it at 8:00?
He can do it at 3:00.
I don't care if he does it at 3:00.
Smile in my head. I'm smiling. Anybody who shoveled ice on the sidewalk knows 3:00.
Knows it's harder.
Well, I mean, it may be more melted.
Or it might be melted.
Yeah. I mean, you could have a win there. Maybe it's more melted, or maybe there's a bunch of people walking on it and you got icy footprints stuck to the concrete.
If you're still not quite there in your negotiation with each other, you could say, help me understand your flexible areas a little better. What flexible areas do we have in common? We just talked about that. We are flexible in time. We're flexible in tools are used.
I think that's one of the areas it's such a nice tool with this. And I don't think we think about being flexible around our core values. We think that's it. Shovel the snow. That's it. Done. Mm-hmm. Right. Instead, until you open up, understand what's important, and then where can we be flexible?
Exactly. How can I help you to meet your core needs here? That's another question we could ask when we're negotiating. How can I help you to meet your core needs?
I mean, you can help me with asking him kindly, because I'll already be gone.
Okay.
To work.
I can help with that.
In that
I can
situation.
give him reminders if he forgets.
Yeah. So bear in mind, this works with anything. And we gave the example for snow, but we could have and have had the same conversation about mowing the grass.
Doing the laundry, mowing the grass, doing, hygiene, taking showers, discipline.
12-year-olds in showers. What is with that?
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Dallin and I had a conversation yesterday. I said, do you remember? He said, I love my shower time. And he has all his perfume and colognes and all his favorite shampoos. And I said, do you remember when you were 10? Do you remember how hard it was to get you to take a shower when you were 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question is, what temporary, keyword temporary, compromise can we reach on this problem? So this is where Robert and I came up with, so we'll make sure it happens every time it snows. He can pick the time. He's going to have gloves and a hat, and he's going to have protection. We're going to say, thanks, you did a great job. And that's our temporary solution.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to end with this thought that a solution doesn't have to be forever. This is a perpetual problem for a lot of couples that you're going to revisit again and again and again. And whatever solution you come up with doesn't need to be a forever solution. You might try it out for 6 months or a week and say, hey, that didn't work.
It didn't work the way we thought it would work.
So let's try another one.
Yeah.
Do you want to quickly end with that story that Gottman shared about the sailboat?
Yeah. I mean, that's perfect. So they like to share in their training this story about this couple that had retired. Or were thinking about retiring. They were just getting to retirement age. And then they started discussing what they wanted to do, so obviously older couple-ish. And he says, yeah, you know what I think? I want to get a sailboat. I've always dreamed of having a sailboat, and let's just sail around the BVIs. Let's sail around the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And she looked at him and said, well, that's weird because I was thinking that maybe we could go back to the family farm in Iowa and we could retire there, do a little farming and a little ranching or whatever it is, depending on what you're doing. And you could never have two disparate goals.
No.
One in the middle of the country, maybe closest body of water is Mississippi.
With a lot of work involved.
Yeah, with a lot of work. And the other one's on a sailboat, which is also a lot of work because those things are always breaking down.
Yeah, sure.
Right? The two separate goals. And you would think that these two people would never be able to come to a solution.
And before you tell me the solution.
Oh, before I tell you the solution.
What is
important?
You
know the story?
I do.
Okay.
Before you tell the solution, what's important to know about this story is they worked this entire process that Robert and I just shared today. They didn't jump straight to a solution. They went for understanding first. So they went through all those sharing your dreams, sharing your values. Is there a childhood story? What is important to you? Are there core values involved? And then they worked through those questions. What are our flexible areas? So they trusted the process. They worked through the entire process first before coming up with a temporary solution. And what was their temporary solution?
Well, and I'll remind those of you who've been to one of our retreats or taken any of our courses, we actually have that as a handout in one of the workbooks. But we talk about our core values. And then as we go out from the center of this core value, so if you can think of concentric rings like a dartboard, right? Mm-hmm. Let's place the areas where we can be flexible more towards the outside. So we're not really affecting the core value. So they decided, where can we be flexible? Well, the timing of these activities, they decided they could be flexible on. So they decided, hey, let's sail for a year with the sailboat. We'll sail around the Caribbean for a year. And then we'll dock it. And then we're going to move to the family farm and we're going to do that for a year. And then at the end of those two time periods, let's decide what we really want to do, or let's revisit this equation and see how it works. And I think revisiting is perfect. We have some friends who live in Canada and they work in Canada half the year and then they sail around the BVI's the other half of the year.
Right. So
perfect compromise for them.
This is such an important piece because I think so many times we think that whatever I give on today means I've got to give on this for the rest of my life. And it doesn't work that way, especially with perpetual problems. Think of solutions as temporary. We can come back and revisit this at any time. So for today, this is the solution we're going to try. A year of this, a year of that, then we'll reassess and see what we want to do.
And especially if it's a conversation instead of an ultimatum. Mm-hmm. If you're having a conversation about we're going to do this for X number of whatever time period, and then we'll revisit it versus no, this is the way it's going to be, end of discussion. And then you feel stuck. You feel like it's never going to change. Then you're just going to have more distance between the two of you. You're going to have resentment and regret and all of those things.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great episode. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys have found this helpful. It might be one to go back and listen and re-listen and take notes. We will put some handouts in the show notes for you with a lot of these questions to help guide you, and we would love to hear how that works for you. We'd love to get your feedback on it, and if you have questions or need some coaching around some of these topics we talked about today, of course, reach out to us at masteryourmarriage@gmail.com. And we're just grateful for you, grateful that you're here today. If you wouldn't mind, it really helps us if you can leave us a 5-star review and a comment, because that helps us to get this message. It helps us to get this episode out to other couples who really need these tools.
Yeah. So if you do want to, we'd love to continue the conversation. Always come on over and see us at Master Your Marriage. On Instagram. Well, that's where we run our polls. And it gives us ideas sometimes, or even content for the shows. But as always, be kind to each other this week.
Put each other first. Remember,
it's the small things
done often that create the greatest impact.
Yep.